Should I choose Germany or should I choose Switzerland for my undergrad program? Well, I would say that if you know the German language, then go ahead and choose Germany. But if you don't know it, then go ahead and study it and choose Germany. I'm just kidding. My name is Aisha. I have been living in Switzerland for the past 4 years. I have done my bachelor's degree here and I'm currently pursuing a master's degree. Side note, while editing, I am just now realizing how bad the frizz on my hair is, so please just ignore it for the rest of the video. Thank you. And I decided to do this video because I have had a lot of people ask me whether they should choose Germany or Switzerland for their bachelor's program because they're not sure about the post-study opportunities. And let's be real, Switzerland, as I have talked about in my many other previous videos, Switzerland does not give you many opportunities. So I have done my fair research of what it's like to study in Germany. I have friends who study in Germany and I have had friends who graduated from Switzerland and then moved to Germany. So I'll be covering that in this video. What else I'll be talking about is the tuition costs in both sides of the world. I'll be talking about the living expenses, the language, the work rights, and what are the possibilities of work opportunities after you graduate. Also, I said both sides of the world as if I'm not like 2 hours away from Germany. Anyway, so first of all, let's talk about the tuition. Yes, you might have heard that tuition in Germany is free, and this is absolutely correct. It is free if you know the language. And by knowing the language, I don't just mean you need to be on an A1, A2 level. You really need to know the language. You need to be on a very advanced, almost native native kind of level in order to be able to pass all of your courses. I have actually done an exchange semester in Germany and it was not a bad experience. It was actually a very positive experience. And I would say that I genuinely enjoyed my studies in Germany, but those were English classes. They were not classes in German. So yes, education in Germany is free. At most, you'll have to pay around 1,000 euros for the tuition, but that's for other public universities. So I'm not talking about private universities in this video because private universities are a whole other section and I honestly have no experience in studying in a private university. And I don't have enough research to talk about studying in a private university, neither in Switzerland nor in Germany. And the tuition cost for Switzerland is about 800 to 1,500 Swiss francs per semester. In a year, we have 2 semesters and a bachelor's degree program is typically 3 years. Now, let's talk about the costs of living. I talk about in my previous videos how high the costs of living are in Switzerland, but that comes to no surprise. Switzerland is a very expensive country. How about Germany? Germany is significantly cheaper to live in. It's way more affordable. However, you do need to know that for Germany, you need to have a blocked account and you need to show around 11,900 euros per year. And that's what I found through my research. And this amount needs to be in a blocked account. So I'm assuming that your monthly expenses can be close to 900 to 1,000 euros per month. And I guess this is also including rent. From what I've found through my research about Germany is that rent is not extremely high. It's actually possible to find rooms that are between 200 to 300 euros, but I'm not sure if this is in all parts of Germany. I'm sure there are parts like Munich that are way more expensive. Maybe Berlin is also more expensive. So I would say take my advice with a grain of salt and do your own research into more details of the living costs. And for Switzerland, you would budget minimum of 1,000 Swiss francs for living expenses per month. And this is also including rent, but sometimes rent can get up to 800 Swiss francs per room. Not even per flat or per a studio, it's a price for a room. And honestly, right now, it's almost impossible to find a room for students. I mean, I know so many of my friends who are struggling to find rooms. They cannot find anything, whether it's in Canton Zug or it's in Canton Lucerne. And now the languages and the program availability. So in Germany, like I mentioned, you'll need to speak German because all of the courses will be in German. Maybe some courses will be in English, but this will be very few courses. However, in Switzerland, you can choose to have your whole degree completely in English. That's what I did with my course. So my course, International IT Management, was fully in English. And there were actually free German programs that I could apply for, but these were just simply language programs. If you do speak German and you do want to study in Switzerland completely in German, there are the courses that are either completely in German or half in German and half in English. So that's totally possible. For studying in Germany, you will have to prove in your documents for the visa application, for the university application, that you have a certain level of German, and I think it needs to be a minimum of B2 or a C1. Now, working during studies, this is one of the most important things that I personally look into before moving somewhere to study, and I have a lot of people asking me about this as well. So first I'll talk about Switzerland because that's where I have the experience. Yes, it's possible to work during your studies. However, you have a limit of 15 hours per week, and a minimum salary here is about 22 Swiss francs per hour. So if you do the math, more or less it comes to about less than 1,500 francs per month. And yes, this is enough for you to live off of, but this may not be enough for you to have money for savings, and you might have to actually cover more than meets the eye, because there are surprise expenses in Switzerland. There are surprise bills that I've had personally, and you'll always have to budget a little bit higher than 1,500 francs, to be honest. And again, this also highly depends on your rent and how you budget, what lifestyle you live. And yeah, it is totally possible, it's totally manageable to live on this kind of student salary, but it can be a little tough sometimes. But during the semester break, you are allowed to work 100%, where you can earn up to around 4,000 francs, but this is only if you work really 40 hours per week, and if your employer actually allows this, because not all employers would allow you to work full-time during summer. So this is something that you'll have to check yourself with your own employer. Also in Switzerland, you're not allowed to work straight after coming to Switzerland and starting your studies. You have to wait 6 months, and then only you're able to find a job. And more often than not, it takes way more than 6 months to find your first job. And for Germany, there is a new rule where students are allowed to work up to 20 hours per week, but the minimum salary there is significantly lower. It's about 13 euros per hour, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, please correct me in the comments below. And as for Germany, as far as I have researched, I don't think you need to wait 6 months after you have started your studies. I think you can start working straight away as long as you have found a job. Admissions to university. So as far as I know, for Germany, you'll have to go through some tests for certain subjects, or you'll have to go through uni assist in common international applications. That's what I have found, but I'm not entirely sure how this works, but I do know that tests are required for your application to Germany. However, for Switzerland, I personally did not need to go through any tests, but I guess this also depends on which university you apply for, which course that you apply for, but I did have to go through multiple rounds of interviews to get admitted to the university in Switzerland. And for the admissions, yes, you'll have to show proof of bank statement in both Germany and in Switzerland. However, for Germany, you'll have to show a blocked account of 11,000 euros per year, and for Switzerland you'll have to show a minimum of 21 Swiss francs per year. So you can see a huge difference between the two. I mean, it's no joke, this is like a ridiculous difference, but at the same time Switzerland is like 10 times more expensive, so I guess it makes sense. So what about postgraduate opportunities? Now this is a very serious topic, and this is something that I would like to extensively talk about. So for Switzerland, you only get 6 months after you graduate to find a job. And to be honest, if you haven't found a job within the 3 years that you have been studying in Switzerland, it's very, very unlikely that you'll find a job within 6 months after you graduate. The thing about Switzerland is that the universities here have a lot of job fairs. Our universities organize a lot of job fairs where you're allowed to go from booth to booth, ask different companies for what are the requirements that they're looking for, and apply to those companies. And to be honest, it's not very likely that if you are a non-EU that you get employed straight away. You have to go through multiple rounds of interviews. Yes, of course, there is still a possibility. I'm not trying to diminish your light or anything. It's just that it's extremely complicated for an international person to get employed here in Switzerland. And given that we only get 6 months after we graduate, This is really not enough time because it's a very stressful time where everyone is looking for jobs, everyone is applying to the same jobs that you're applying to, and it's very unlikely that an employer will actually see your CV or you'll get accepted to work. So what a lot of people do after they graduate in Switzerland is they apply for a master's degree. Most students already have this as a plan B, even though, they did not think about doing a master's, but they would still do a master's in order not to only stay in Switzerland, of course, but also to improve their possibilities of getting hired in the future, not only in Switzerland, but also in other places of the world. And to be fair, there are really good master's programs in Switzerland, so I completely understand why, we would do that. It was personally my case as well because I was hoping to get employed after I graduated with a bachelor's degree, and I had 2 companies lined up, with interviews, with the admission process, onboarding process. However, it did not go through for me, so I started a master's degree. But it sort of worked out because I did get a job and I'm working currently. However, most students who did not find a job and started doing a master's are still currently looking for a job. Or those who did not do their master's, most of them went back home, and some of them went to Germany. And they went to Germany because their possibilities of finding a job there are higher. The market is apparently better there. Now in Germany, students get up to 18 months to look for a job. Now this is a really long time, and I think I would much rather get 18 months than 6 months because the possibilities of you finding a job within this amount of time, I think, is relatively high. My friends who have studied in Germany and graduated in Germany are working in Germany. They didn't have to do a master's degree. They're currently, working with their bachelor's degree, and they're earning on an average German salary. And for them, that's enough. And I think that if I had to choose again between 18 months and 6 months, I would of course choose 18 months, and I would much rather go for the option of studying in Germany. The thing about German employment market is that it's also a very diverse economy. They are in very high demand for IT and for STEM students. So I do understand why it would be possible to actually score a job if you go to Germany, if you have graduated from an EU university. So if I had to do it all again, would I choose Germany over Switzerland? I don't know. I want to say that yes, I would have chosen Germany, but honestly, I love Switzerland so much. I love studying here, I love my job, and I think if I had to do it all over again with Switzerland, with all of the challenges, with everything that was thrown my way, I think I would still do it again. I hope this video has covered all of the information that you were looking for, and if there is anything that I have not covered in this video, feel free to leave in my brain's not working. Feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I will get back to it in the next video. Anyway, all right, bye. See you in the next video.